Thanks for joining this webinar. My name is Natalie from Orchid, and today Steve and I are going to go through an overview of Orchid systems, focusing on what's new and what's hot in 2024 with Orchid Modules for Sage. As many of you are aware, we have been attending various Sage conferences over the last few months, in particular Transform in Las Vegas, TPAC in Vancouver, and TPAC in South Africa. A lot of what we're going through today is similar to some of the Orchid overview presentations that we did at the various conferences. We will also highlight some useful resources to learn more about Orchid products and to learn how to demonstrate Orchid products. After the overview, we will do a more detailed presentation of Notes, Document Management Link, Extender, and EFT, focusing on EFT web screens, as they are the most popular Orchid modules. We will then go through what's new with all the other Orchid modules. But first, I'm going to hand over to Steve for an overview of Orchid.
Over the next few minutes, I will endeavour to show you why over 7,000 companies rely on Orchid's Sage 300 add-ons every day. First, a bit about Orchid. Orchid has over 7,000 Sage 300 sites deployed and supported by over 450 Sage business partners in over 80 countries around the world. Orchid has been in business since 1993, over 30 years, is based in Sydney, Australia, and has won numerous industry awards, and each site is running, on average, 2 Orchid modules. Orchid's modules are developed within Sage's development framework, providing a consistent interface and enhanced security. Now for some key numbers. Orchid has historically addressed over 88% of support cases within 24 hours, has had 23% average year-on-year growth over the last 20 years, and has seen a number of active sites grow consistently over time as well. Orchid's EFT processing for Sage Intacct streamlines Sage Intacct payments and receipts using electronic funds transfer. Automate the creation of EFT files for your bank, leading to increased efficiency, accuracy, and security. Eliminate expensive paper checks and avoid duplicate data entry for a quick return on investment. EFT processing for Sage Intacct integrates seamlessly with Sage Intacct accounts payable, accounts receivable, and time and expenses for employee reimbursements. As you can see, it sits within Sage Intacct, providing you with a familiar interface to get you up and running quickly. Now moving on to Sage 300. Orchid's Sage 300 add-ons fall into 5 categories. Firstly, collaboration, which lets you create, locate, update, and share information in intuitive, powerful ways that can easily be integrated into your everyday use of Sage 300. It consists of Notes, which lets you attach context-sensitive notes to Sage 300 screens, which is great if your staff regularly refer to information outside Sage 300, such as post-it notes and other documentation to help them with their tasks, and Document Management Link, which helps you file, locate, and refer to various documents, for example, purchase orders, invoices, contracts, when processing transactions in Sage 300 or answering customer queries. This provides easy access to essential documents directly from your Sage 300 screens. The second category is tailoring, automation, and integration. This provides codeless tailoring of Sage 300, bespoke customization using Python, automation of critical processes, and integration with external applications, and comprises Extender, which is a cost-effective way to configure, customize, and extend Sage 300. You should consider Extender if you have a business or integration requirements that can't be met out of the box with Sage 300 functionality. Remote Action Service to progress and extend a workflow without needing to be logged into Sage 300. Workflow Anywhere, which is an extender workflow console for your mobile device. And lastly, Process Scheduler to schedule your critical business processes to run automatically and unattended. This will decrease the reliance on operations staff manually kicking off recurring processes, for example, data integrity checks, backups, day-end processing, and the like, and will ensure they complete without incident. Thirdly, we have streamlining financial processes, which improves productivity and accuracy while taking the drudgery out of processing complex but routine transactions, and consists of EFT processing, our most popular module, to streamline Sage 300 payments and receipts using electronic funds transfer. EFT processing enables electronic payments to vendors and employees, collects receipts from your customers via direct debit, and sends positive pay files to your bank. Inter-entity transactions, which automatically generates offsetting entries in each company based on highly configurable rules, automating the allocation of expenses and or revenue across multiple funds or companies, balancing intercompany loan accounts, and processing cash between companies. And lastly, inter-entity trade, which creates reciprocal documents in Sage 300 when related entities trade products or services with each other. The fourth category is budgeting, reporting, and business intelligence, and gives you control over your business-critical data and includes Info Explorer, a powerful yet affordable business intelligence tool supporting integrated analysis and budgeting, enabling you not to be reliant on two-dimensional extracts of reports when analyzing business data, and spreadsheets when producing budgets and forecasts. Optional tables to create custom multi-dimensional data structures within your Sage 300 database. Data views to simplify reporting of Sage 300 optional fields. And Report Runner, which streamlines the setup, execution, and distribution of recurring Crystal and Sage 300 financial reports. Lastly, we have operations and inventory management, which tightly integrates your operational processes into Sage 300 and includes return material authorizations, or RMA, to accurately track returns and repairs from within Sage 300, bin tracking to track inventory items accurately across multiple bins within Sage 300, and Freight SmartLink, which streamlines integration between Sage 300 and your freight carriers. Now let's have a look at what these modules will do for you. Notes gives you relevant and contextual alerts, procedural instructions, or other information presented where and when it's needed, flexible enough to include images and hyperlinks, and all stored and managed within Sage 300. Here we have the order entry screen with notes relating to Mr. Ronald Black, our customer, and the desk lamp that he is purchasing. The notes are context sensitive and configurable by user. Document management facilitates a paperless office with seamless integration between Sage 300 and your document management or file sharing system. Here we are in the Accounts Payable Invoice Entry screen and can see documents relating to this invoice, all invoices relating to this vendor, and contracts associated with this vendor. Once again, all of this is user-definable. Extender is a cost-effective way to handle bespoke business logic, from simple validations and alerts through to custom screens and tables and integration with external applications, and all held within your Sage 300 database. The Configurator Edition includes codeless configuration, alerts and notifications, logging, and workflows. In addition to this, the Developer Edition provides Python scripting, view-level business logic customization, the ability to customize existing screens or create new ones, and the creation of custom tables with associated business logic. With Extender, we can run external applications as well and synchronize with external systems in real time. Remote Action Service is an easy way to progress workflow actions remotely. It builds on the powerful Extender workflow capabilities, allows you to progress a workflow action without being logged into Sage 300. It's secure with no open firewall ports to Sage 300. And all you'll need is access to your email and a browser. Workflow Anywhere lets you use your mobile device on the road or in the office to progress Extender workflows. It is a made-for-mobile version of the Extender Workflow console. You install it on your mobile phone or tablet using your mobile app store, which could be Google Play or Apple Store. Monitor your current workflow task list with it and action them in Sage 300, whether in the office or out on the road. Process Scheduler gives you peace of mind and convenience of having key processes automatically scheduled and the efficiency of having them run unattended during off-peak hours while still being notified if something goes wrong. You can set up schedules to perform recurring processes automatically, including day end, posting of batches, data integrity checks, and much more. EFT processing cuts costs and improves efficiency through increased automation, enhanced auditability, and reduced exposure to fraud by moving away from paper checks or streamlined positive pay file processing. It works seamlessly with accounts payable, accounts receivable, and the Canadian and US payroll modules. Over 900 bank formats are supplied, and additional bank formats can be supplied at no charge as long as you are running a supported version of EFT processing and are current on your maintenance or subscription. Alternatively, of course, you can create your own formats. Here are some of the classic screens, and here are some of the web screens. Inter-entity processing keeps your entities in balance at all times, with offsetting entries being automatically generated in each company based on highly configurable rules, backed up with and with an extensive audit trail. In this example, head office is allocating management fees across subsidiaries, revenue is being allocated across entities, and expenses are being distributed, all via intercompany loan accounts. Bank transfers between entities can be automated, and entities can receive and pay funds on behalf of each other without needing to re-enter the same information time and again. Inter-entity trade automatically creates reciprocal documents, removing the need for duplicate entries to be manually created and checked, while also improving accuracy and auditability. In this example, when a customer order is captured in the retail company, a chain of transactions ripple through the distribution company to the manufacturing company, and back when the order is fulfilled, eliminating duplicate data entry. Info Explorer is a powerful business intelligence tool with real-time slice and dice capability with integrated budgeting and forecasting within the reach of small to medium-sized businesses. It replaces scores of two-dimensional crystal reports and lets you drill directly into the underlying Sage 300 screens. Optional Tables provides custom, multi-dimensional data structures within your Sage 300 database, enabling better control and visibility while also allowing you to view and manipulate data in Excel and then write it back to Sage 300. In this example, we are looking at and working with a detailed sales budget by customer and item, all of which is held within Sage 300. Data views is an easy way to create and maintain database views within Sage 300 that turn your optional fields into columns, simplifying report writing while making reports run faster and more efficiently. Here, customer optional fields become columns as seen through Info Explorer, Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio, and Crystal Reports. Report Runner improves both efficiency and data security by ensuring that staff can easily launch and access reports that are relevant to their role, without being distracted by or having unauthorized access to those that aren't. In conjunction with Process Scheduler, these reports can be scheduled and distributed to the appropriate people. Return Material Authorizations lets you track returns and repairs accurately while improving customer service through consistent processes supported by configurable workflows, all from within Sage 300. RMA is tightly integrated with and has the same look and feel as Sage 300's operational modules, providing a central point to manage returns. With bin tracking, rather than having to purchase, learn, maintain, and reconcile a separate warehouse management system just to track multiple bins, you can do this from within Sage 300, while also supporting the use of handheld barcode scanners.
Thanks, Steve. Before we delve into more details about some of the more popular modules, let's have a quick look at the Orchid website. Many of you know that you can download Orchid products when you're logged in to the website as a partner. If you don't have logon details, you can fill in Become a Partner form and we will send you logon details. A reminder that the partner area is only for Sage registered business partners. Once you're logged on, you can access the product downloads, and that includes the Orchid sample data, which are very useful to get familiar with what Orchid modules actually do. They're all configured, including some sample files to demonstrate document management link, process scheduler, EFT. In many of the presentations that we show in webinars and that are available on the website are actually based on these sample data. In the marketing material area, we have lots of the brochures and case studies, which are available to all, including end users. Once you're logged on, you can view the sales PowerPoint presentation, and most of the slides we're going to look today come from this presentation. So I encourage you to get your sales team members to log on, create their logon details on the website, and download the sales PowerPoint presentation. We update it regularly based on new features, change of look, new points that are particularly important about the module. Finally, all our modules have got an online help. You can access the help from the F1 button in the actual application, but you can also access it from the Orchid website, get the help for each module you're interested in, and that includes the key training videos for all the modules. The more recent addition to resources on the website is some tips on working with Orchid. Part of it is about the partner portal, dedicated to renewals and viewing activation code, paying the renewals. But there's also a summary of the key questions that we often asked by people who are new to Orchid or haven't worked with Orchid in a little while. It's split by the different family of products that we work with because some of the details are a bit different. For Info Explorer, this is where you get the information. For Sage Intacct, here's the process to order new modules. And for Sage 300, it's also documented here. We have details on how to get your NFR and trial activation codes for Sage 300 and for Sage Intacct. So again, I'm encouraging you to share this link with your new consultants and some of your admin team members. One thing I will highlight today is around the renewals. When a module is renewed, if it is on subscription, we send you a new activation code that you need to enter or ask your customer to enter into the relevant license screen. For Sage 300, that means we need to know the version of Sage 300 that you're running so that we send you the correct code. For Sage Intacct, if you have multiple live sites or a live site and an implementation site, you need to enter the code into each of your implementation sites. Now we're going to start with a more detailed presentation on Notes and Document Management Link. Steve gave you an overview of these two separate products that are both part of the Information Manager suite of products. Because they share the tray to display information in the Sage 300 screens, we often present them and demonstrate them together, but you can buy one without the other. What's new in the latest updates of those modules? First, like all our modules, they are now compatible with version 2024, and that includes compatibility with the latest changes to version 2023 security in Sage 300. We've made some improvements to the tray where we found that in the latest version of Sage, printing on some screen could be slower than it was in previous versions. So if you have these sort of issues, make sure you're running the latest product updates. And as part of that, you will see that the notes and document management icons displayed on the screen are now displayed in the main screen. A question that we get regularly is what's happening with notes and document management web screens. We're currently working on them. We've done a lot of the background work. We can display documents in the web screens, but we still have a fair amount of dev work. So watch this space for more news on DML web screens. So now let's look at this in Sage 300. I'm now logged into Sage 300 as a user that is configured to have access to Document Management Link. I can see this in the system tray looking at options. I'm flagged as a DML user. And we're going to start with our most common use case of Document Management Link, which is attaching documents to AP invoices. I'm opening my invoice batch list and I'm going to use this existing batch. I've entered a new invoice for vendor 1450. You can see I have other documents for this vendor configured here. I want to attach the document for this particular invoice. There's different ways to do this. I can click Add, and I have my scanned document folder here. Attach my invoice. You notice immediately it's renamed based on the document number, as this is how we've configured it. And if I click on Explore, it will take me to the actual folder where this is saved. I can double click on it, open the PDF. I look at my next invoice. I haven't filed a document yet, so I'm going to do it by dragging and dropping from File Explorer. I have my custom documents folder and my scanned documents folder. I can select the invoice document and drag it into the tray. It's then renamed to my invoice number. Now back on the vendor activity screen, I can see documents that I've filed against this vendor. And if I go to the detailed transaction, as I'm navigating through my invoices, I can see the documents that have been saved. For this vendor, I've been working, I can view the documents with the different invoices. Let's now look at notes on this screen. You can see I've entered a note for this particular vendor. If I look at the next vendor, I don't have a note yet. I can come here against the vendor and enter the note for vendor 1350. Quickly refresh the screen and I can see the notes now for vendor 1350. Let's now look at some item notes. I'm going to pin my note tray and look at the different types of notes we've entered. Some text with a hyperlink to an email, to open a website, a small image. You can also notice that we have different background color for the note type, and that is all configurable. All these notes belong to item A11030, the fluorescent desk lamp. For the mini fluorescent bulb, I have different notes. Now, let's look at order entry and see how we can use these notes and documents when entering transactions. As I'm selecting the customer, you can see we have a note relating to credit limit, and by way of background, this note was actually created automatically by Extender rather than being entered manually. There are a whole lot of documents, for example, the previous customer invoices. I can double click on any of those documents, view the invoice, or if I'm using Outlook, I can also right click on the document and choose email. I then have documents that belong to the item. Item A11030 has two documents. I can look at the documents for the next line on the order. And if I look at the third line, I actually don't have any documents specific to this item at this point. And finally, in my last box, I have order specific documents. My order confirmation and the purchase order for the customer has been filed in a subfolder per customer. And that's all based on my configuration. The last example I'm going to show you is when entering a return authorization transaction as part of Orchid's RMA module. We can see a note that appears as I'm opening the screen to remind users to check the NPS score when creating the RMA. As I'm selecting a customer to enter the return, I get more details appearing about the customer. I have all my previous original invoices for this customer. And if I select an invoice and populate my RMA, the customer original invoice number shows on the RMA grid, and I can then see the original invoice document that's been saved previously, and I can open it and check some details if need be. To summarize what we've just seen about notes and document management link, you can have multiple boxes per screen. You configure, you decide what is relevant for the different users. You can link to up to 2 fields on the screen, including fields on Sage 300 grids. It works with the third-party modules developed in SDK. You can store your documents in a network folder and or in SharePoint. You can mix and match. You can have some documents in SharePoint, some documents on a network folder. And that includes support for multi-factor authentication for the SharePoint users. We will show you in the next part of the presentation how we can use it in combination with Extender. What's new in Extender? Compatibility with version 2024, and a reminder that if you are upgrading to 2024, you just need to upgrade Extender. Your scripts should work automatically. Obviously, good practice is always to test and upgrade, but you don't need to recompile or redo your scripts. A whole lot of the other improvements are more designed for developers, and we are not going to go through them in detail now. But a reminder that we added these functions or changed them based on requests from your teams, from your developers. If you have any question, you're not sure how to do something, send us a question and we can point you to the right direction or add new resources to Extender if required. The module screen is an important part of Extender. It makes the deployment of customizations easier. You just import your module in the database, restart the Sage desktop, and your customizations are ready to go. You can now also view the Python packages that are part of your Extender module from the Modules tab. We've recently added a video on how Extender works, so if you or your IT team need more detail on the mechanics of Extender, how it links to Sage 300, I'd encourage you to watch that video, which is available on the Orchid website. Let's now look at logging, alerts, and some example validations and automations in Sage 300 using Extender. Logging and email alerts work on the Sage web screens as well as the Sage desktop screens. Let's have a look at our favorite customer, Mr. Ronald Black, 1200. I'm going to go and do two things. Change a credit limit. When I save, my validation kicks in. It says the maximum credit limit is 20,000. It looks like a Sage error message, as if Sage has validated that credit limit. Now, I know my maximum is 20,000, so let's make it 19,000. As I'm now saving successfully, a log entry is created and an email has been sent to the configured person. I'm going to select another customer. I'm going to put on hold. Now, let me log back into Sage 300 and look at the Extender logs. We can see that customer 1240 has been put on hold and the credit limit has changed for customer 1200 from 1860 to 1900. You can log changes to any field in Sage 300 core modules as well as third-party modules, and here we see examples of logging the insert of AR invoices and various key date fields on the invoice. If I log in again into the customer screen and look for Mr. Ronald Black, you can see that I've got a note that was created automatically. And from here, I can also view the logging details from the actual customer screen. These icons are currently only available on the Sage desktop screens. And if you change the date and refresh, you can see the entire history of the credit limit changes for this customer. The note against the customer with the latest credit limit change is useful in itself, but it's particularly relevant because I can now add this note to the order entry screen. As I'm creating an OE order for Mr. Ronald Black, when I'm selecting Mr. Ronald Black, I can see the last time the credit limit was changed and by whom. So if this order has a credit hold issue, I have more information that I can use to communicate with the accounts team. While we're looking at orders, let's look at some other examples of Extender scripts that can be used in conjunction with notes. Here we're displaying the total sales for this customer in the last year. This information is calculated on the fly as I'm selecting the customer or the order. As I'm adding an item, I see the customer and item sales for last year for the item that I've selected. There's lots of ways you can use that information to communicate with the team or with the customers. Another example of what we can do with notes and Extender is what we've configured on the order shipment screen. You can also do this on the order invoice or the order entry screen. We're displaying all the back orders for this customer with the expected ship date and relevant information such as the order total. You can double click on the order to actually view detail on the order. And you can also run the AR aging and view the detail of transactions that may be overdue. This is actually running the Sage AR aging process. We're not recalculating, we're using the Sage business logic, using the options that you've configured in AR for this customer. Back on the order entry screen, I have now posted my order. I've got an order number and I want to send an order confirmation to the customer. We've added a button to the screen to print the file to PDF and email it to the customer. So this is automating a process that you can do manually. Export to PDF, save it to the file name in a particular folder. We've configured it to display a message because we find it's easier in a demonstration, but you don't have to. It can happen in the background. And we're creating customer folder and a subfolder per order. That's how we've configured it, but the choice is yours. So now if I quickly refresh the tray, I can see the order confirmation PDF saved in and displayed in document management link. Similarly, we have other buttons. If the order has been invoiced, I can print the invoice to PDF from here and save it in the customer folder. We've also added a button to add lines to an order, and that is a pretty common requirement. This one adds a miscellaneous line, but you can add a non-stock item, and the script will use the default price or calculate the value to charge for freight or for extra charges. The next example I want to show you is on the GL entry screen. You can see here that we've added an optional field called entity. We've added the optional field to the grid so we can come and select the entity that I want. This column is the same as the optional field that you can see by clicking on the optional field grid, selecting the value, but we've added it to the grid to make the data entry easier. You can add as many fields as you need with this extender app. They work like a normal column. You can drag and drop them. You can also build some calculations or some validations to ensure that you're selecting the right project for the right entity, for example. And this is used by customers who want to use dimensions without creating multiple GL accounts to track details about their transactions. And using this app makes the data entry easier. We are showing it here on the GL journal, but it also applies to accounts payable, accounts receivable, IC, OE, and PO transactions. We've looked at Extender Configurator for alert and logging. Once it's configured, it runs in the background. It works whether you use the Sage desktop screens or the web screens. It can apply to any Sage 300 view developed in the SDK. You can log multiple fields on the same view. You can use the same events, and you can log different fields on different views. If you're doing notes or emails, you generally have an email template per record that you create with the fields that you want. We've seen examples of using Extender Developer to write Python scripts to validate the credit limit, to automate adding lines to an order, automate printing a document to a particular folder, adding optional fields to the grid. And the best starting point for this is the Extender Marketplace and some configurable modules you can access on the Orchid website. So let's have a quick look at that. On the Extender Marketplace, you have example of Extender applications grouped by the different Sage modules. A lot of them are plug and play. They're designed to give you ideas as to what you can do with Extender. Some need some more tailoring to fit your exact requirements. Some were developed by Orchid. Others were developed by Sage 300 partners who have developed apps using Extender, such as the Extended Landed Cost by Genetec. A lot of the developers are familiar with the Extender script section. We have recently added a new category of configurable modules. They're not just sample scripts to help developers get started. They're full-blown applications that you can download and configure, and we've demonstrated this in a recent webinar. Next, we're going to look at EFT processing, which is part of our Streamlining Financial Processes suite. This is Orchid's most popular module around the world. What's new in EFT processing? Like all other modules, compatibility with version 2024, support for the latest payroll in the US and in Canada. We have added many new bank file formats in various countries for both Sage 300 and Sage Intacct. A reminder that the formats are shared, so every time we add a new format for Sage Intacct, it also becomes available in Sage 300, and all the Sage 300 formats are immediately available for Sage Intacct. There have been some changes to the EFT remittance advice, as we can now store the effective date that you enter on the screen for some formats into the log file. Therefore, we can include it in the EFT remittance advice. If you have customized the advice form, we recommend that you take the new EL Pay RPT files and redo your changes, like adding the company logo or other changes. There have been some improvements and bug fixes based on issues and support queries that you report. You can add a list of invoices applied to payment in the email that is sent to the customer. You've always been able to attach a file with all the details, but if you want to include it in the body of the email, you need to use the doc list variable. We can now support thousands of applied invoices, whereas there used to be a limit of a few hundred. You can configure EFT processing to upload the file it creates directly to the bank SFTP portal, storing the connection details in the bank configuration in Sage 300. We now support the latest SFTP protocol, including key files and two-factor authentication. The best way to get details about various other changes and fixes, based generally on questions that you ask us and issues that you report, is to look at the release notes and the updates available on the Updates tab in the EFT options screen and on the online help. We've had EFT web screens for about 2 years now. There's still a few that we're working on: inquiry screen, screen to create receipt batches in AR, update the invoice due date. We're currently working on those, and they will be released in the next little while. So watch this space. Now we're going to look at EFT processing, and we're going to start off with the Sage web screens. I'm using the Sage 300 web screens, and I've recently created a payment batch with the invoices that are created earlier. Now I can go to the EFT create file, select the batch that I've created, this batch was created for bank CCB, which has been configured to use this Canadian format. If my file format is configured to use the description, I can enter it and it will pass the reference to the file. Often when you're using the web screens, you would use SFTP, and we have these different options with either password, a key file, or two-factor authentication. You could configure to download the file so that your browser preferences kick in. The file is then on your machine, and from there you can upload it to the bank. You can also have a browser profile which will sync your downloads to a cloud-based or FTP service. So once you've uploaded the file to the bank, you can go to EFT transaction reports and print advice to email the remittance advice. You can configure your message ID with the details that you want to send. And that can include the payment details, the list of documents that the payment is applied to. And if you go to the online help, you will see the variables that you can use. And we also support HTML emails, and there are also examples of that in the help. So if I go back to my print advice screen, select the batch, go print, that is going to mail or to print or email, depending on how I've configured my vendor and customers. So it's now emailed those two batches. You can see it happening in the Outlook notification. And that's the key steps to create your EFT file once it's configured. Create the file, email the remittance advice. An important consideration when implementing EFT is the security. And for that, let's look at a few options that are relevant. When I set up my vendors or my customers or my employees, I have an option to encrypt the BSB and the account number. and also an option to set the default vendor status to entered. When I create a new EFT vendor or update the bank details, the status will be switched back to entered, and the status needs to be active before I can use it. So a user with more security rights need to approve the vendor, and that's the way to implement separation of duties, to ensure that different users enter the bank details and other users can approve the bank details. When you encrypt the bank details, users with limited rights only see the last 4 digits in the screens and in the various reports. This example, I'm logged in as the user who has rights to view the detail. You can also choose to password protect the remittance advice that are sent to the vendors. Same options apply to customers when using EFT to pay refunds or to do direct debits, and to employee for payroll. A lot of these options are explained in more details in the online help for EFT processing in the tutorial section. So we have the detailed steps to set up separation of duty, to approve EFT vendor, customer and employee details. There's also a quick tip video presenting that feature. Similarly with SFTP, we have documented the detailed steps to configure EFT Bank with SFTP. Let's now go through what's new with all the other Orchid modules. In inter-entity, transactions and trade, compatibility with version 2024, and various fixes based on issues that you might have reported. Improvements in mapping in OE and PO, change to the account balance report and inquiry if the source and target companies had different fiscal calendar, and a reminder that inter-entity supports the latest security changes in Sage 300 version 2023 PU3 and above. Process scheduler and report runner, they're designed to automate the running of tasks in Sage 300 and specifically for report runner, crystal reports, as well as financial reports. Compatibility with version 2024 and with the latest security changes of Sage 300. When you enter the credential in a process scheduler to connect to other companies, as it is a very common usage of process scheduler, we now validate the credentials as you're entering them. Financial report runner. There was an update last year to Sage 300 System Manager to enable the ability to save the reports in SLX file from a financial report runner. So that should reduce the compatibility error messages that you might get when running the reports automatically. Financial report runners support the latest version of Microsoft Excel. Report runner supports complex password. In the Business Intelligence Suite, Info Explorer and optional tables. Info Explorer was upgraded last year to a 64-bit application, which increases the maximum size possible for a cube. And as part of that, the default installation path has changed to program files. The online help is now accessible from the application, and we've done several sundry branding updates as we have a dedicated site for Info Explorer, because Info Explorer works through with Sage 300 as well as other applications that support ODBC. Optional tables supports version 2024, and the Excel add-in supports latest version of Excel. In RMA, compatibility with version 2024, as well as various background improvements to for people who were adding the RA entry screen to their own OCX and wanted to remove the prompt to print the message. We also have added an ability to disable the manual tax warning, and that is at the RA options level as well as the RMA template. Bin tracking, compatibility with version 2024, and various improvements to auto-picking items with both serial and lot numbers. As we mentioned before, a lot of these what's new information is available in the online help and on the Orchid website. So I encourage you to look at the product news and read our newsletter where we publish the details about the new product updates. Thank you very much for your time, and we're now ready for Q&A.